Everyone warns you about turning 70. Nobody warns you about what actually happens next. That your brain becomes chemically quieter, your regrets start dissolving, and science has confirmed you will feel happier than you did at 35. Nobody told you 70 is where life gets interesting. The decline story, how society programs fear of 70 before we even arrive. Blue zone data, Okinawa, Sardinia, Ikaria, where people don't fear 70, they celebrate it. The uncomfortable truth, most people in their 70s report higher life satisfaction than people in their 40s. A landmark Stanford University study found emotional well-being peaks in later decades, not youth. So where did we get this story wrong? And when does the real story begin? The neuroscience nobody taught us. Reframe aging as biological upgrade in key areas. The amygdala shift. After 65, the brain's fear and anxiety center becomes measurably less reactive, confirmed by fMRI studies. Positivity bias. Older brains naturally filter toward positive memories. This isn't denial, it's neurological architecture. The default mode network. Why older adults often report deeper self-awareness and philosophical clarity. Fluid declines, crystallized keeps growing into the 80s. Vocabulary, pattern recognition, wisdom synthesis. The pruning effect. The brain at 70 has eliminated millions of unnecessary neural connections. It becomes more efficient, not just older. Oliver Sacks published his most personal, celebrated work at 81. The brain changes, but not in the direction you were told. Expose the invisible freedom that comes after 70. Social, emotional, financial. The social approval weight. Studies show the desperate need for others' approval dramatically drops post-65. No more performance, career identity, competition, keeping up, gone. The I don't care what people think phenomenon, not bitterness, but liberation, documented in psychology as gerotranscendence. Lars Tornstam's research on gerotranscendence, a natural psychological shift toward deeper meaning, less ego, more cosmic perspective. For the first time, your time is genuinely yours, a freedom most people never experience at any earlier life stage. The paradox. People who feared retirement found unexpected identity expansion, not shrinkage. But here's where it gets even stranger. Your relationships change in ways nobody predicted. The quiet revolution in human connection after 70. The social circle contraction is actually strategic pruning, Laura Carstenson's socio-emotional selectivity theory. People over 70 prioritize emotionally meaningful relationships with surgical precision. Less noise, more signal. Fewer friends, but deeper than anything experienced at 30. The grief dimension. Loss is real, and how those who navigate it describe a tenderness toward life that's irreplaceable. Marriages and partnerships often deepen after 70. Research from University of California, Berkeley shows increased positive communication in long-term couples over 65. Many people report the most authentic, judgment-free friendships of their lives starting after 70. And then there's what happens to your sense of purpose, which science says is perhaps the most powerful shift of all. Reframe meaning-making in later life. The untold story of purposeful aging. Viktor Frankl's insight applied to later life. Purpose is not a reward for youth. It's available at every age and deepens with experience. The unique gift of 70 plus, you can see your whole life as a coherent story and choose what it means. The difference between ambition and meaning, most people spend decades chasing the former and only at 70 discover the latter. Creative Renaissance data, many artists, writers, scientists produce breakthrough work in their 70s and 80s. Grandma Moses began painting at 78. Toni Morrison wrote Beloved at 56 and her final novel at 87. The volunteer and mentorship boom. People over 70 contribute billions of hours of irreplaceable knowledge transfer, a function no other generation can perform. Psychologist Erik Erikson's final stage, integrity versus despair, and what it means when you choose integrity. Now let's talk about the body, because even here the story is more surprising than you think. Honest, science-based reframe of physical aging, neither denial nor catastrophizing. The truth about pain and acceptance. Studies show people over 70 often report less suffering from chronic conditions than middle-aged people with the same conditions, due to psychological adaptation. The biological principle where the body adapts and strengthens with the right stressors, applicable at any age. Exercise science revolution. Research from Ball State University found 70-year-olds who exercised consistently their whole lives had the cardiovascular profiles of 40-year-olds. Sleep changes are real but misunderstood. Circadian rhythm shifts are not disorder, they're biological recalibration. Superagers don't avoid difficulty, they engage with life, mentally and physically, past every conventional expectation. Sensory slowdown as unexpected gift. Some report that slowing down physically forced them to notice the world, taste, touch, presence, in ways they never did when rushing. But perhaps the most radical thing about life after 70 is what it reveals about time itself. The philosophical core. The shift from quantity of time to density of time. The time acceleration paradox. When young, we have more time but experience it as endless. At 70, time feels more vivid and present. Research shows awareness of life's limits actually increases daily life satisfaction, called terror management in psychology, but better understood as prioritization. The Japanese concept of ikigai, reason for being, is found most clearly by people who have lived long enough to know what they don't need. Time at 70 is no longer theoretical. It's immediate, precious, and entirely yours to shape. People in their 70s report experiencing awe more frequently. Sunsets, music, grandchildren, silence. You have already survived everything that felt unsurvivable. That track record is a form of confidence no younger person possesses. Emotional crescendo. The reframe becomes personal and universal. Life after 70 doesn't add a chapter. It recontextualizes every chapter before it. The things that cause shame at 30 become wisdom at 70. The failures become the most interesting parts of the story. The people who live this chapter best share one trait. They stopped waiting for permission. To rest, to create, to speak, to love. Society talks endlessly about preparing for old age. Almost nobody talks about the experience of it from the inside, which by every credible measure is far better than the outside assumes. One final data point. In a global survey of life satisfaction by age, the highest scores belong to people in their early 20s and their late 70s. The valley in between is the cost of building. The peak at the end is the reward. Whether you are 40, 55, or 72, the story of what waits at 70 should change how you move through today. The invitation: stop treating later life as the epilogue. It may be the whole point. Every chapter you've lived was research. After 70, the writing begins. You were never racing toward an ending. You were moving toward the most honest version of yourself. The best chapter isn't promised to the young. It's earned by everyone who was brave enough to keep going.